The 2023 NBA Draft was an event where one name dominated headlines as the prize of all prizes at the top, and 2 years later, that sentiment still holds true. What's also important to look back on, though, is the fact that it wasn't just a one-person draft class, and that there was quite a bit of snaky good talent throughout. There were also, however, quite a few regretful selections made early on that, if given the chance, those teams would love to have a do-over for, and that premise leads us to today's video. Today we'll be going through the 2023 NBA Draft 2 years later, and we'll be redrafting the lottery selections based on what we know about the class and these teams after time has progressed with the power of hindsight. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Starting with the first pick in the draft, the San Antonio Spurs still select Victor Wembanyama just as they did 2 years ago. Victor Wembanyama was being called the greatest prospect the league has seen since LeBron James, and 2 years into his career, he's been doing things we've never seen before, setting him on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Wembanyama has immediately become the league's best shot blocker since day one by a wide margin. He was on track to run away with the Defensive Player of the Year award last season before he was shut down for a blood clotting issue, and offensively, at 7'3", he handles the ball like a wing player and launches pull-up threes that are just unguardable when he's on. The Spurs got blessed by the ping pong balls 2 years ago, and they're not throwing away their lottery ticket in a do-over either. Next, with the second pick, the Charlotte Hornets select Amen Thompson after originally selecting Brandon Miller with this pick. This is where the draft really gets underway after the number 1 pick was as obvious as it gets, and I understand Hornets fans will want to stay loyal to Brandon Miller here, who has objectively been very good through 2 seasons, but I am firmly of the belief that long-term, Amen Thompson's ceiling is endless, and his upside as a talent is through the roof. Thompson took a huge leap from year 1 to year 2 across the board, and yet it still feels as though he's just getting started. He started the season coming off the bench for the Rockets, but by January he was a full-time starter, and after locking down the starting role through the end of the season, he was averaging about 16 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in that span, shooting 56% from the field. He's arguably the most athletic player in the entire NBA right now. He's a force attacking the basket, and on defense, he's already one of the league's premier lockdown talents, having been named first team all-defense this season as well. He's still not a good three-point shooter at all, which holds him back for the time being, but from what he has shown, his prime could look like a superstar two-way talent in the Defensive Player of the Year mix, and the Hornets, quite simply, need as much defensive help in their backcourt as possible, playing next to LaMelo Ball, who notably struggles on that end. Next, with the third pick in the draft, the Portland Trail Blazers select Brandon Miller after originally taking Scoot Henderson here. Miller doesn't fall very far because the Trailblazers are one of the teams that would love a do-over here if possible. Brandon Miller came out of Alabama as a skilled shot maker on the wing, and at the NBA level, he's progressed in that regard even more than most expected him to so quick. Last season, he was averaging 21 points per game early on, primed for a breakout season in year 2, but then his year was unfortunately ended by an injury after just 27 games, so the hope is that he can pick right back up where he left off this upcoming season. But even with that hiccup, he's still the best player available in this position. Even with the Trailblazers being guard and wing player heavy on the roster, they're not in a position to be picky when it comes to talent, so taking the best player available and figuring everything else out is the necessary move here. Next, with the fourth pick, the Houston Rockets select Chumani Kamara after originally taking Amen Thompson with this pick. With Amen Thompson now off the board in this scenario, I like the idea of them taking a player with a similar defensive impact to come in and play a fairly similar role as Thompson, as Kamara, who is an outstanding talent in his own right, can do that. Kamara was originally a second-round pick in this class, so he is easily the biggest riser 2 years later, later, and currently on the Trailblazers, he's establishing himself as a nightmare matchup for the league's best players. He's the one guarding the opposing team's best player night in and night out, pretty much no matter what position they play, showing off his insane versatility. He's one of the best at fighting through screens and sticking with his man through physicality being thrown his way, and on offense, he's a competent 11-point per game scorer who shoots above average from 3, serving the exact purpose the Rockets would need out of him. Next, with the 5th pick, the Detroit Pistons select Derek Lively after originally taking Ausar Thompson with this pick. The Pistons had just selected Jalen Duren in the previous draft before this one, so I know it doesn't seem like the best fit, but while Duren is an excellent partner for Cade Cunningham in the pick and roll and as a rebounder in the paint, he's not the strongest defender, and again, the Pistons should be taking best player available regardless here. Derek Lively is a far superior defensive talent than Duren is, and he's also an uber-athletic floor-running big man that rebounds well and works the pick and roll seamlessly. Lively is also used to serving in a shared role at center, currently splitting minutes with Daniel Gafford at the position in Dallas, so he and Duren could form a similar pairing, giving the Pistons strong center production for all 48 minutes of a game. Next, with the 6th pick, the Orlando Magic select Ausar Thompson after originally taking Anthony Black here. As the twin brother of Amen Thompson, he comes with a lot of the same physical traits that make Amen so tantalizing, but he's just a bit further behind offensively than his brother is. Defensively, Ausar is an incredible playmaker who has an elite feel for the game. He makes the right rotations, he blocks a ton of shots for a wing player, and he ranks near the top of the league in steals too. His pure athleticism is something any team would love to delve into and try to maximize over time, because at his best, he's making life hell for whoever he gets matched up with. Offensively, the worry is that his jumper is completely broken, as he shoots just 20% from 3 through 2 seasons in the league, but as a slasher and cutter off the ball, he still finds ways to get open and score in bunches. Next, with the 7th pick, the Washington Wizards select Brandon Podziemski after originally taking Bilal Coulibaly with the pick. Podziemski has established himself as one of the Warriors' more important players through 2 seasons, as a well-balanced offensive player capable of filling in a bunch of different roles. He can be a secondary ball handler and playmaker, he's a strong shooter on and off the ball, he can look for his own shot off the dribble, and he defends hard. He won the starting job for the Golden State midway through the season last year, and after that point, he was averaging about 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists per game as a starter, shooting a red-hot 43% from 3 in that stretch. The Wizards have a lot of guard talent that just aren't very efficient scorers right now at all, so adding Podziemski's reliability would be a good addition to the mix. Next, with the 8th pick, the Indiana Pacers select Cason Wallace after originally taking Jarris Walker with this pick. Funnily enough, knowing what we know now about the Pacers becoming legitimate title contenders in each of the last 2 seasons after this draft, they would have loved to have had a win-now young player ready to contribute from day one, and being able to add a player that was doing exactly that on the team that just beat them in the finals last year is the ultimate irony here. Cason Wallace impressed me so much throughout the Thunder's run to the title this season as the ultimate role player willing to do whatever is needed for his team to win a game. He's a reliable shooter, he's a great perimeter defender who generates a ton of deflections and turnovers on that end, and he doesn't need the ball in his hands to make winning impact, which was exactly what the Pacers needed more of in their backcourt rotation. Next, with the 9th pick, the Utah Jazz select Scoot Henderson after originally taking Taylor Hendricks with this pick. Scoot Henderson was originally the 3rd pick in this draft, so he finds himself slipping a bit, but in hindsight, he's still a top 10 selection, so it's not like his career is a flop by any means. He just had a season where he put up about 13 points and 5 assists per game, shooting much closer to league average with his efficiency than he did as a rookie, so that leap is promising for his growth down the line. What makes Henderson's reputation so negative amongst fans is that he seemed to be a hyper-explosive athlete as a prospect when he was playing down in G League Ignite, and in the NBA, he just doesn't seem to be nearly as quick or explosive as was expected, which limits his upside quite a bit. He's not the Russell Westbrook clone that some were pegging him as, but he's still a promising young player that would be an upgrade over a lot of what the Utah Jazz currently have. Next, with the 10th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Bilal Coulibaly after originally taking Cason Wallace here. With Wallace off the board, they reroute their eyes to an exciting young wing defender who fits the mold of what OKC has looked for from prospects in the past. Coulibaly is unfortunately not a very good shooter at all right now, hitting 31% of his threes for his career and just 28% last season, but he's a 6'8" menace on the defensive end with a 7'2" wingspan that he uses to generate a lot of turnovers and deflections with. He's a springy athlete who uses his length to attack the basket hard as well. He's just incredibly raw on the offensive end as a whole, but on the Thunder, he wouldn't have the ball in his hands that much anyway, which plays directly into his strengths. Next, with the 11th pick, the Orlando Magic select Keontae George after originally taking Jet Howard with the pick. If there's one thing the Magic are desperate for right now, it's shot creation and playmaking from their backcourt. Keontae George may be flawed, especially on the defensive end, but if there's one thing to get excited about with his game, it's his natural scoring ability from all three levels. He's not very efficient yet, shooting just 39% from the field and 34% from three, but he did average 17 points per game last season, and he's comfortable taking 8 threes per game, most of which were looks that he created for himself off the dribble. The Magic, over the last 2 years, haven't really had anybody comfortable taking 8 threes a night in their backcourt, nor did they have anyone close to as talented as George is as a scorer, so being able to add him instead of the flop that was Jet Howard is a huge win in a do-over to take some pressure off of Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Next, with the 12th pick, the Dallas Mavericks select Anthony Black after originally taking Derek Lively with this pick. The Mavericks are a team that would hate a redraft because Lively has been off the board for a bit here, but Anthony Black would be a helpful piece in the rotation that has had notably weak backcourt depth over the last few years. Anthony Black may not be a standout in any one category, but he's another terrific young perimeter defender that has helped the Magic establish themselves as one of the elite defensive groups in the league. He's a capable ball handler and playmaker in spurts. He's sneakily athletic as a slasher to the basket, and while he is inconsistent, every now and then he will heat up from three too. Next, with the 13th pick, the Toronto Raptors select Bryce Sensabaugh after originally taking Grady Pick with this selection. The Raptors were looking for a scorer with the pick at the time, and while Dick did take a leap with his output last year, he was labeled as a sharpshooter at the time of the draft, and hitting 35% of your threes in his career like Dick has doesn't quite qualify as being a sharpshooter. Sensabaugh, meanwhile, has flown way under the radar in Utah, emerging as a professional bucket getter from all three levels. Last season, he averaged about 11 points in 20 minutes per game, shooting the lights out, making 46% of his shots and 42% of his threes. You're not going to speed him up. He plays at his own tempo and gets to his spots where he comfortably pulls up and converts, and honestly, he deserves a bigger role down the line. And finally, with the 14th pick in the redraft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Grady Dick after originally taking Jordan Hawkins here. Dick may not be the knockdown shooter he was labeled as at the time of the draft, but he's still the best scoring talent left available here, and the Pelicans are another group that, in their current condition, could use a better scoring punch while taking a swing at the potential of Dick's three-point shot rounding into form down the line. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the 2023 NBA Draft Class 2 years later. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.